Welcome to the 2 to 20 podcast, the podcast that empowers women how to build, fund, and scale their businesses. I'm Katie Vander Ark.
And I'm Julia Belt, and today we are so excited to have Sarah Jahnke here. She is the CEO and co-founder of Homecourt. Welcome to the podcast, Sarah.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to join you both today.
Us too. Do you want to just kick it off and give us a little bit of your background?
Sounds good. I'll start all the way at the beginning. I was born in Michigan. I moved to New York for middle and high school. Grew up as a dancer, and then went to college at University of Chicago, where I studied liberal arts, law, letters, and society, and wound up after undergrad at PwC, where I was in management consulting, mostly for airline clients. And then I went back to University of Chicago for business school. I got my MBA. And at that time, I decided I wanted to enter the beauty industry. So after my MBA, I went to L'Oreal in New York City, and I worked there for about 5 years in the luxury division, where I helped manage brands like Victor and Rolf, Proenza Schouler, Armani, YSL, and Ralph Lauren. And then in 2020, it was the pandemic. I knew I wanted to stay in beauty, but also that I wanted to leave New York. And I put feelers out, and through my network, got connected with a family office who knew Courteney Cox. And that's how I met Courteney to start Homecourt, which launched in 2022.
So why don't you tell us a little bit more about Homecourt?
Happily. So Homecourt is essentially a fragrance brand that I started with Courteney Cox from Friends. And the idea behind it was really to bring a luxury beauty and fragrance philosophy into everyday home products, starting with cleaning, like our surface spray. We're best known actually for our surface cleaner and hand wash, but we also make candles, dish soap, room deodorant, body products, as well as laundry products. And we're all non-toxic. All of our formulas are made with clean skincare grade ingredients. All of our packaging is made of 100% post-consumer recycled material. And we're really best known for the fragrance inside. It's truly like what's in an eau de parfum, but in your everyday products.
I love it. It's so beautifully packaged, great brand. It looks good inside the home. There's so much about it, which is so beautiful. One of the things too that I saw was that Courteney is really, it seems like, a lot of times, sometimes when there's a celebrity involved in a brand, they are sort of just like a celebrity figurehead.
The face.
It's a face. Yeah. They're not really like part of the brand, but it seems like she seems to be kind of involved in like product ideation and working with you guys on that side of things. What is her involvement in kind of the product build out?
Absolutely. Courtney's so hands-on. She literally made the candle vessel prototype herself on a pottery wheel back when I first met her. And really, she's the creative visionary for the brand. So our bottles, they're a square shape. No one had done that before. And I was inspired by her favorite olive oil. And similar, the bottles read as black, but you can kind of see in the light on my screen, they're actually a really dark green. And this color was inspired by the paint in her living room. I remember we had to scour for a paint chip because it was from a very niche paint shop in England. So I had to send that into our factory. But this dark green color actually worked really well for being 100% post-consumer recycled material because it's a dark color and it's easier to be able to do that with dark colors. But yeah, Courteney inspired the color, the shape, the candle vessel, as I mentioned. Every single fragrance is from her nose to the perfumer's ears. It's CC, which is our number one hero fragrance, is actually her personal fragrance that she used to wear that we now have put into these products. But she is so involved, and we're so lucky because having been in the beauty industry, there's not that there's a playbook, but there's certain rules and things that are like, well, of course it has to be this way. And with Courteney, she really pushes the limits. The fact that we have 7 different fragrances, but all of our packaging looks the same, that's very intentional. And that's really Courteney pushing us to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I love
One
that.
of the things this is making me wonder, not necessarily related to the brand, but like from an investment perspective, is this bringing in investors? I assume there's maybe like typical beauty investors, and then, but based on like all the work that you're doing around, the materials and the clean beauty side of things, are you bringing in investors that are interested in sort of like clean beauty or environmental aspects of the brand? Like, I feel like that's such a interesting angle for a fragrance based
Mhm.
company.
Well, in terms of who is invested in Homecourt, it's mostly been friends and family of Courtney, myself, and the family office. Um,
Mhm.
but so our only institutional capital is from Cult Capital, which was our Series A lead. They are
Mhm.
experts in the beauty industry. They were the lead investors in Supergoop and helped them grow
Oh.
and exit to Blackstone in 2021. And then another portfolio company of theirs is Lawless Beauty, which is a clean beauty brand as well. So I think that it's not that we have investors that require things to be clean or sustainable, but within the friends and family world, and then within Cult, who are experts in this category, they know that being clean, non-toxic, being sustainable sets you apart, and consumers want that and trust that. And so when we were developing the brand, honestly, it was table stakes. That like Courtney and I never even considered not being clean or not being sustainable. I think we had the opportunity to maybe be 20% PCR versus 100%, but we were like, why not max it out? So
Mhm.
we did.
I love this story too, which I think is also a very interesting trajectory. So like how did you even, I guess, like how did you even know to like connect with the family office? How did you know this, like did you know this was a route, like after working in management consulting, that like you could go and launch a company or co-found a brand? Like how did you come into that?
So that's a great question, and I definitely, when you look back, all of the dots connect on how you end up where you end up. But you know, go. Let's start back in my early career in management consulting. It's a great place to learn just how to be professional, right? You're learning about meetings and being on time and how projects are managed, and but I never felt very passionate about what I was working on at PwC. And so that's why when I went to business school, I really opened myself up to what's going to make me excited to get out of bed in the day and go to work. And that's when I knew I really got involved in the beauty industry. Every class I took at Booth, I was applying the beauty industry too. And even I had an internship while there where I was sourcing deals for Hyde Park Angels, which is a very active angel investment fund in the Midwest. And I was looking at beauty and consumer deals. So through my time at business school, I did really learn about the world of investing, what a family office was. I also, again, was really diving deep into retail beauty and luxury. And so I was familiar with how important networking is for opportunities like this. But being the traditional, risk adverse person that I was at the time, I said, I have student loans for my MBA. I got to go get a big corporate job. And I still didn't really feel like I knew enough about the beauty industry either to go start my own thing. So that's why I went to L'Oreal, because I knew I was going to learn so much about the industry. L'Oreal is still to this day the largest beauty company in the world. And I was excited about the opportunity to definitely start in luxury, but potentially go global with them or try their other consumer products and active and professional products divisions. So all of that to say, the networking, the first seed that was planted in my life was I want to work on something I'm passionate about. The second seed in my life was, learning about the importance of networking, entrepreneurship, and investing, which is what I learned in business school. And then I was, back in big corporate and beauty at L'Oreal. So how did then I decide to go earlier stage and reach out to that family office? Well, having fallen in love with the beauty industry and knowing that's where I wanted to start my career, or stay in my career, after 5 years at L'Oreal, I felt like I reached my like a plateau. Obviously, L'Oreal is still an amazing place with a lot of different career paths, but I think too in 2020, everyone was really reflecting about what would make them happy. And I really missed some of the earlier stage things I had been exposed to in business school. Something I didn't mention actually is I did an entrepreneurship accelerator for a shaving product idea that I had. And so it was a little bit of a taste of entrepreneurship. We had to do pitch competitions, and I even filed a provisional patent on my idea at the time. So that was always like in the back of my mind, but that always felt like a product and not a brand. So I never really went after it. But all that to say, it's 2020. I want to get out of New York. I'm a little frustrated at this career point at L'Oreal. And I'm like, how do I get back to early stage? And that's when I just started networking again. And in the pandemic, it was quite easy to network. You didn't have to sneak out of the office, go to a doctor's appointment. You just had to hop on one Zoom and hop off on another. Yeah. So I think too, again, in the pandemic, people were really open to talking and connecting and checking in, seeing how you were. So it was a business school friend, sorry, long-winded way to get back to your original question, but it was a business school friend who reached out to me actually for an introduction request. And he said, by the way, what are you up to? What are you looking for? And I said, well, I'm, looking to stay in beauty, but do something earlier stage. And well, if you see anything, will you keep me in mind? About a month later, I get an email from him, and he said, hey, I got this email on this listserv I'm on. This sounds like you. And it said, seeking a CEO and co-founder for a celebrity-backed fragrance brand, must have management consulting, MBA, and fragrance brand management. And that was literally my resume.
Like, it's literally you.
I was like, yes, that does sound like me. So I put the name my name in the hat. This was in June 2020. I had my first call with someone from the family office. And by the way, they did not tell me who the celebrity was. So I ended up having 3 calls, one a month, with each partner at the family office, and really just explaining to them my experience in all of the things I just talked about, specifically fragrance, how you would launch a brand. And I knew they were interested in candles specifically. So we did in my interviews, we were talking about candles. And then right before Labor Day 2020, they said, okay, the celebrity is Courteney Cox, and she wants to meet you like on Monday. And I was like, oh, wow, this is really becoming real. By the way, I should mention at the time when I was networking just that summer in COVID, still working remotely for L'Oreal, and was exploring other opportunities in LA. I also had this pull to LA. So that was another thing happening. But so I meet Courteney on Zoom. I remember burning a candle in the background as kind of good luck for my interview, and showing that I am a candle consumer. And it was her and not anyone from the family office anymore. It was like her manager and team. And we had a great interview. I remember one thing that happened that was kind of funny looking back is I was wearing kind of a bright colored shirt. And at one point when I was asking her about her style and aesthetics for this brand, she's like, well, I hate bright colors. Oh, no. And I said, no, I don't know if I'm going to get the job, but it wasn't a problem. But we really hit it off, and I was excited to meet her. I could see how passionate she was about fragrance, about the idea of making candles. And I was thrilled when about a week later, so right after Labor Day 2020, the family office called and said, we'd like to offer you this position. And then reality hit. I was so excited and thrilled, and I couldn't believe this was an opportunity. But then it became a little scary because I had always been in these more secure career paths of management consulting, a big corporate. And so I didn't say yes right away. I did some exploring and soul searching. I talked with other people I knew in the entrepreneurship world. And I had a friend from PwC who had started his own company. And he had said, where are you going to learn more? And that really stuck out to me because while I had learned so much at L'Oreal, at the time I had felt like I was kind of hitting that plateau, and the moves they were making to get me out to LA or switch brands weren't happening on my timeline. So I said, well, I'm absolutely going to learn more doing a startup. And, with Courteney involved, I knew it was going to be an opportunity of a lifetime. that no matter what happens, even if we fail, I will learn. And so that's what made me take the leap.
I love that so much. And thank you for providing so much context and story. It's so fun to watch like somebody's just journey from point A to point B, and someone that's looking at you, maybe wanting to do something similar, afraid to leave their corporate job, can listen to your story and feel excited that maybe the opportunity is out there for them. I'm curious, like, what was the most surprising thing going from these like, yeah, these like big companies that are very stable and just like corporate, right? Like there's like so many annoying things about corporate too. But maybe what was like something surprising whenever you actually like got into it and started putting together the team for Homecourt, or just any learnings you had or any surprising things
Yeah.
that you had?
Well, one thing I never had to worry about at L'Oreal, while I did own a P&L, I did not have to worry about cash and cash flow. That was not my responsibility. And as a big company, there are whole teams that do that, right? That's
Yeah.
the number one priority as an entrepreneur, and thing that keeps people up at night is cash. How much cash is coming in? How much cash is going out? Do I need debt? Do I need investment? Is the retailer going to pay the PO on time? What are my terms with the suppliers? Like, cash management is key. And that's actually something I really love to talk with other entrepreneurs about. I want every entrepreneur and founder to know their numbers. Even if they're the creative founder, um, it's so important to know the numbers and know the cash that goes in and out of your accounts, especially in the early stages. And so that's something I'm really passionate about, helping other entrepreneurs, especially women, understand and learn about, because cash is how you live or die in a business.
Could not
I was
agree
gonna
more.
say, I was just gonna say, I mean, even if you're like the head of product or like the CTO, like every major feature that you're shipping is related to, are the customers going to adopt to this? Is this gonna like connect to our bottom line? Like I feel like every major decision I've been making as a tech founder is, how does this affect my bottom line? And
Yes.
this is like, that's the number, I totally agree. It's like the number one thing to understand of like how this affects our business.
Yeah, and even
Actually,
when you get into the nitty gritty, so my favorite report is the 13-week rolling cash forecast. And then you get into the weeds and you go, wait, why did this software have like an auto debit into my bank account? Like, especially when you're fundraising, you got to cut the cord of anyone who has auto debit, put everything on a credit card or a net 30, invoice, even better. It's just like you set up all these automations and things to make life easier, but no, with cash, it's like as manual as possible.
yeah, I was just gonna ask, what do you use like a certain tool for cash management and reporting? Like, do you use like Row or like any other fintech software? Or are you like just doing exports and like it seems like you're very hands-on. So I'm curious like what tools you use.
Yes. Well, things have changed now 5 years in, and I did do a Series A last year and was able to hire a director of finance and a COO. But at the beginning, we first started with Row as our bank and also Ramp. We also worked very closely with Settle for a line of capital, as well as we actually used it as our bill pay system.
Oh,
And
cool.
then I was the one building the 13-week cash flow forecast in Excel, and it was very manual. I'm sure that now with AI, there are tools that could do that for me. I just at the time built it. And again, I like to encourage people, even if they're going to use AI, to understand the ins and outs so they can check the work and feel empowered. But post
Yeah.
leading up to the Series A, we were scaling so fast. We were doubling the business every year. As you know, we all had less than 5 full-time employees, including myself. I was wearing every C-suite hat. So I was CFO, I was controller, I was everything, CMO, everything. My main reason to raise money was I need to get a team in place, because an executive team in place, and because we want to scale, we want to be a global household name. We're on our way, but I can't do it all. And we also knew that our Excel spreadsheets, or really Google Sheets, was not going to continue to be able to let us scale and sell millions and millions of units. So for the beauty industry, especially, NetSuite is still the leader in ERP systems. And yes, it's expensive, and yes, it's complicated, but we're not thinking about now. We're thinking about when we're a 9-figure brand, right? And when we're, if we're acquired one day, you know, if L'Oreal wants to buy us, let's say, we're going to need NetSuite anyways. So why not set up the infrastructure now and the team and infrastructure now to continue to allow us to continue to scale? So one of the first things I did with the Series A that closed last August is hired the COO, hired the director of finance, signed the contract with a NetSuite implementation firm. And I'm happy to report we successfully implemented this in June 1. So that's our new system. We also did move our banking to Chase. Again, once you have institutional funding, more opportunities, more banks and things open up. So we did do a lot of overhaul post fundraise.
Yeah, you get I like the scrappy startup to feeling more like an established brand. It's like it's a very good feeling.
Yes, yes.
But I think there's a lesson too in that, like, you know, you had this opportunity to co-found with a celebrity, and so instead of being like guaranteed success, let's just put all of our eggs and spend all of our cash and like act like we're already, you know, this 9-figure whatever brand. You were really scrappy at the beginning and proved out the model before. Now you're investing for the long haul,
Yes.
but you knew exactly what to invest for and what to double down on because you were so involved from the very beginning in every single piece of it, and like did things manually so that you knew. It's so smart. Like, kudos to you.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. I mean, I think going back to like the crossroads of even, okay, I got this opportunity. Do I take it or do I stay at L'Oreal? Because it was scary. And again, I mentioned how my friend said, where are you going to learn more? But another thing that really excited me about the opportunity was the ability to define a new category. Because one of the other things that happened before I officially signed up and said, yes, I'll move to LLA and do this was Courtney and I started to just on the side brainstorm a little bit more about the brand and her vision. And I realized and remembered, wait a second, she was Monica on Friends. And Monica is a notorious clean freak. And having been in the fragrance industry for 5 years at that point, I knew that it was becoming the fastest growing beauty category. Quick tangent, but by the way, when I was in fragrance at L'Oreal, sometimes I was bummed that I wasn't on makeup and color and hair or skin because those were products that I was like more excited about. But little did I know that fragrance was going to become the fastest growing beauty category and still is today. And also had this opportunity to run and define and create a fragrance brand. So again, all of the dots connect. But so when I met Courtney, started talking to her, I realized the connection with Monica. I realized she truly is like Monica and is a clean freak herself. And I knew that the fragrance world was growing and it was the prestige end of the market driving the growth. So that to me, all of those consumer insights, market insights, Courtney insights, I said, hold on a second. We should definitely make candles, but why not elevate everyday commoditized cleaning products and elevate them with a luxury beauty and fragrance philosophy? And Courtney is the perfect celebrity founder to do this with. So that's really how the idea for Homecourt was born. And I kind of pitched that back to them as I was negotiating before I definitely, signed my paper and put my notice in at L'Oreal, because I wanted to make sure I was going to feel passionate about this category that we were defining. And it's, there's so many once in a lifetime opportunities here. It's founding with a celebrity, defining a new category with something that's never been done before. So that's what really, again, made me take the leap.
It truly is a new category. Like, and even your products are so beautiful and stunning. And when you think of like cleaning products, you don't think of it looking that beautiful, and yet yours do. And so it's very exciting that like completely created a new category and at the price point that is accessible to so many people as well.
Thank you. I have a lot of fun stories about like how we came up with the packaging and stuff. It's crazy that that was 5 years ago now, but it's been a fast journey. But we still, um, we haven't strayed from what we originally started. So
So you had 5 people on your team full time, and you just made some hires. So how big is your team now?
12 full time employees.
12 full time. Okay. Still, that's small for
It's small
like the
for what you're doing. I
revenue
know
and
that's
yeah.
super impressive to be, you're running pretty lean still.
Thank you. Yes, we are, and we're going to be doing some. We call it workforce planning at the end of July. One another hire. This is a fractional hire, but one of the best hires I made after the Series A was a fractional chief people officer because
Hmm.
org design, how we recruit, internal branding, culture, all of that is so important. And that has been life changing for me just to have somebody focus just on people and have that experience be great and recruiting everything. So I really recommend that too to founders. If I could do it over, I might have even started having them consult earlier, but one step at a time.
I love that. I come from the mental health space. Like that's where I live and breathe every single day. And that those team dynamics and making sure that everyone is healthy. And I love that you're investing in that because it is so important and something, Katie and I talk about as friends and as like founders of our separate companies is really just how hard it is and how sometimes you're moving so fast and you have to wear multiple hats and it is all hands on deck like and it can get stressful. And so the fact that you're investing in your team and bringing this person on to help you manage all of that, like it's great. What do you think in terms of, so when you're looking at your team and you're looking at like what's next for home court, like what would you say, what's next, I guess is the question.
Well, my most recent hire was a VP of marketing, our first ever VP of marketing. So now the marketing team officially has 2 people, our employee number one, and now this VP of marketing. Um, we are recruiting currently for a senior manager of e-commerce role, D2C and Amazon. D2C is our number one channel with Amazon growing the fastest right behind it. So we need some extra attention there. We typically had kept that outsourced. But we have set up with our innovation and all of our product categories. By the way, we started with just home and air. So surface cleaner, hand wash, candles, for example. Now we also have body and laundry products. So we're going through right now a brand refresh internally just to make sure that, how do we talk about how all of these categories and how they tie together? And when I zoom out, I really think of Homecourt as a fragrance brand that happens to play in all these categories. So, anyways, all this to say, we've done a lot. We've launched a lot. We've grown a lot. We're in a few channels. Now it's all about scaling within what we already have versus creating something new and getting awareness and the word out there. So, when it comes to what we're going to be investing in next, it's really within marketing. Again, for last 6 months after the fundraise, we were on people and infrastructure and ops and finance. Now that's all set up. We're ready to rock and roll. Pour the fuel on the fire with marketing and try some new marketing things we haven't been able to do. We've traditionally stuck to paid because you can track the ROI on that, right? And the metrics, but that only gets you so far. What can we be doing offline? What can we be doing with the community outside of Courteney to really keep the word out there and growing? Because what we do know, and I think you guys know this, but we have an amazing customer repeat rate. It's almost 50%.
Wow,
And
So
that's
good.
huge.
refills have become nearly a third of our online business, not even including subscription. So what does that say? That, that's how that really speaks to our product quality and our amazing fragrances. And so once somebody comes into the brand, they're hooked. They want to keep coming back. And that means it's time to invest now in awareness so that more people keep coming to the brand.
I was going to ask about like durability. So like it seems like this is kind of where you are right now. Like you did product, you brought it to market, you prototyped, brought it to market. You you have brand loyalty, it sounds like, and now it sounds like now it's like durability. Like how do we build to last now? Because it sounds like
Yes.
you've really kind of hit the first kind of couple important benchmarks, which is hard to do in itself. And now if you get to this point, it's like how do we stay as kind of one of the incumbents in the space?
Yes. I call we internally we call it the 100-100 plan. How do we grow to be a nine-figure brand at minimum, while also being a brand that will endure and be around in 100 years? Because there's no shortcuts if you want to be around and have a brand outlast all of us here.
Yeah.
So true.
Great mentality. What is some like advice that you have if somebody wanted to get into the consumer product space? Like what is some advice that you would give to maybe another founder, somebody else that's kind of exploring ideas? Do you have any kind of like, I don't know, quick advice or long standing advice that might be helpful for somebody?
I think it's so important to be a student of the industry. So I mentioned in business school is really when I had that pivot into beauty. And so again, I was a consumer of beauty and I knew I was interested in it, but I never worked in beauty. So while I was in business school, I signed up for all industry newsletters, CEW, um, Beauty Independent, Beauty Matter, WWD. I got really involved in the industry, just knowing what was going on, who was who. When I graduated from Booth, this was about 10 years ago, like last month, which is crazy. So it was 2016. I graduated from the full-time program. I knew I was going to go to L'Oreal, but I mentioned I had that shaving product idea still in the back of my mind. So I actually went to Cosmoprof, which is happening in a couple days in Vegas. And it's actually really funny. I think the tickets are like $200, but I remember at the time, 10 years ago, having student debt, I was like, I can't afford that. So I not pretended, but I like pitched myself as press for my university business school's like newsletter, and I got a free pass, my friend and I. So we went to Vegas. We stayed at the Luxor, which is that crazy pyramid hotel that was very cheap
Yeah.
because we couldn't afford the Mandalay Bay. And sorry, this is another tangent, but it was July in Vegas in a glass pyramid, and it was the air conditioning wasn't working, and it was just disgusting. But we were so excited to be there. We went to Cosmoprof, hit the pavement, and we were like so excited. We met with all of the contract manufacturers. We met with, at the time, the founders of Youth to the People were there. This is like when they were first starting, and I remember meeting them and talking to them. We just like networked, and we met a few wipe manufacturers because my product had something to do with a wipe. And I just got the lay of the land. And when I got to L'Oreal a month later, they were like, what did you do this summer? I was like, oh, I went to Cosmoprof. And they were like, what? But again, I was a student of the industry, and actually some of the contract manufacturers that were at Cosmoprof, I ended up calling up when I was starting Homecourt. So for someone just starting, and let's say you're in food and consumer, like go to Expo West, sign up for BevNet, just be a student of the industry. You're going to meet people through it. And once you're in the industry, you'd go to those things anyways. So don't wait to start, just get in the door. And, even now as an entrepreneur, it's very busy, right? We're wearing all the hats, but I still prioritize going to conferences. I go to the WWD Summit. I go to the Beauty Independent C-Suite Summit. I even went to Dealmaker Summit last year, and that was great because I was fundraising, and I was one of the only brands there, because brands sometimes don't feel like they have the time. And you do have to prioritize because not every event is worth it, but it's like that's where you're going to learn and know what's going on. And when it comes to going back to like fundraising, or just also what the white space is, how are you going to know what the white space is, or what the multiples are, or who's investing in what, if you're not engaged in all of those things?
It's such good advice. And I think it kind of comes back to what you were saying with your friend giving you this like wake up moment of like, where are you learning? It seems like you're a lifelong learner, and that through line has just like remained true with everything that you do. And I do think it's such good advice that like, be curious, explore, get on the newsletter list, go to the conferences, network. Don't be afraid to ask someone for advice or to like, just say, I'm curious, like, can we get on a discovery call? I'm
Yeah.
always shocked with the number of people that say yes to that because they're
Yeah.
just willing to help you.
Yeah.
So that's really good advice. My final question for you, given that I'm in the mental wellness space, what do you do as a busy founder and someone that has like a really big job and, is still in the startup phase and everything else? What do you do for yourself? Like, what do you do to refill your cup?
I love that question. So when I was first starting, the first thing I did indulge in a facial and a massage once a month
I
because
love that.
Oh,
I needed
so
something.
nice.
So I went to Heyday and now. And then I really missed working out. And I would like go occasionally. I used to work out a lot in New York. Then it kind of fell off and I felt like I didn't have time. And I would go occasionally to this outdoor workout on the beach called Dominate in Santa Monica
Oh,
because it was
I've gone to Dominate.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's the best. So like it was still kind of COVID when I moved here. So that was one of the only options. So it was like, okay, two birds, one stone. I'm outside. I'm working out. Then in 2023, they opened an indoor gym and I was able to get a trainer. It was a little bit, the business was like a few years old then. And now that's been my thing. I never give up. I go 3 times a week with my trainer. No questions asked. Like I have to be there. And that's been so important. And honestly, it's not even about looking good or like building muscle. I do all those are great goals, but it was honestly mental health for me and just putting myself first. So self-care is facial, massage, working out. And then I've had an executive coach for this entire time as well. Her name's Robin Ward. And I met her in 2021 when I first moved out here from another founder. And I also have a therapist, and I'm currently not in therapy, but I've always stuck with Robin. So I think that's really important too, because as you mentioned, being a founder is so lonely. And it's just important to have someone you can talk to about that. Couple other things I'll add. Going back to networking, the founder community, especially in LA and especially in beauty, is super friendly and collaborative. So those dinners you get invited to, if they're, you'll figure out which ones are more productive than others, but like you just go and you meet other people who are going through the same stuff as you and you get to vent and talk about it. And then one other thing I'll say is vacation wise, I feel like my first vacation in the Homecourt scheme of things that I really felt like I was taking off, not at a normal time, like, Christmas or 4th of July, was I took a 1 week to go skiing in 2024 in the middle of the week. And that was like my first time really feeling like I was away. And I was nervous about it, but a couple things. One, it gives other people on your team a chance to step up. And 2, it's a great pressure test because if you're doing everything and you can't go on vacation, that's a risk for your business. So it's almost like a great challenge as an entrepreneur to be able to take a week off to make sure everything's humming and running.
Yeah, that's a great. I'm still working on that, but I do like it.
You'll get there.
Same. The first time I really did that was when I had a baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say maternity leave.
Because like there was no other option,
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. You had to go deliver it to the hospital. Yeah.
yeah, but I was like sending my co-founder a voice memo while I was in labor, and she was like,
Oh my
"Maria,
gosh.
I swear to God."
Put the phone down.
Yeah. And my husband was
I
like, okay. Like, yeah. No, I love that so much. Well, we're so grateful for all of your time and your advice. And anyone that's listening to this is going to get so many golden nuggets of information out of it. And so congrats on what you've built and thank you.
Yeah, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. One thing I want to share is I love talking about stuff like this, and I'm going to be launching a Substack called Percent to Plan, where I'm going to share more lessons like this. So you heard it here first.
Yay!
Okay,
Well, we'll
perfect.
make sure to
Yeah,
put it in the show notes.
Perfect.